Hello everybody and welcome to Project Mix Breakdown with me. Today I'm going to be breaking down my latest tune. You can listen to it on Spotify as of the 12th of April, Friday the 12th of April. If it's past that date, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use, YouTube Music, all the other ones. And it's myself, Johnny Holmes, JONNYHOLMES, A Pint A Day. Get on it. We're going to break it down. This is the project, the Logic project. Looks quite messy, and yet it's much tidier than it was when I worked on it. I've just basically moved down here everything that I didn't need, everything that I didn't end up using. This is the stuff that I have used, so I've gone for red for the drums, which I've bounced down. There was 5 drum tracks. I've bounced them down to 1, having mixed them separately. The bass master take, that was comped obviously down into 1 as well. Same with the piano, which is yellow. Green for acoustic guitars, and then different shades of blue for the electric guitars. I'm colourblind, excuse me. Since I've left green, that's how they kind of are when you program them in. And same with vocals, I've sort of left them blue. So what I'm going to try and do then is talk through how I went about producing, recording, mixing the track, which is called A Pint A Day, by the way. I'll try and go through in the order in which we worked on them. So the tune, A Pint A Day, brief overview. It's about social anxiety and drinking. Great subject matter. So where do we start with this tune? Well, usually when I start with tunes, it's me and a piano, because that's how I tend to write the songs. So I will have played it through badly on piano, made a demo. It's kind of around 2020 that I started working on it, probably wrote it around 2018. I went to university for my first year in London. It was while in London that I started working on recording and producing this tune. And only now have I got round to mixing it and completing it and releasing it, because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have the skills, the production skills, to deal with so much live instrumentation, particularly the drums. So I just panicked and forgot about it until recently. So yeah, we'll have started with recording for a demo, which I then took to a chap called Jan Hansen, I think he was called. Jan Hansen. It's not that long ago, is it really? 4 years? But I'm terrible with names. But Jan was definitely his first name, and he was a stunning piano player. So I gave him this demo, gave him the chords, told him a little bit about the feel of the tune. And the first thing we will have recorded for this tune will have been this piano. It's gorgeous, isn't it? He can play, the lad. The lad can play. That's actually an edit between takes. I like to think I smoothed it over quite well, but that's 2 different takes. In the first take, he was really going for it. In the second take, at this section, he slowed it down a bit, less impetus in the performance. And I thought for the second woe, I would introduce a little bit more melancholy. So that's 2 different takes, but you can blend that over and no one will notice with the use of stuff such as the fade tools, which is here. You just press that and then you can just fade stuff together so that it doesn't sound like a hard cut. And I'll give you an example of what a hard cut sounds like later, because in going back through this tune, I didn't realize, but there is a hard cut that I didn't paste over because you can't hear it in the mix, but I'll point that out. So we had the piano. That will have been where we started. That will have been the first thing that was down. And then I believe the next thing, the acoustic guitars, which I gave to my good friend Owen Swift, who I actually lived with at the time. He was my flatmate in London, which meant communicating over music quite easy. And he recorded these lovely acoustic guitars, which I've panned left and right. So they're introduced towards the beginning of the song. So you start off with the piano and the vocal. We'll get to the vocal. And the guitars come in to just give the indication that this is going somewhere. You know, if it was just the piano for too long into the tune, I think you would kind of go, okay, where's this going now? But the guitars come in, the strumming pattern provides a little bit more pace, a little bit more momentum, gives the indication that we're moving somewhere, because at the end of the day, this is a build-up song. And Owen also recorded some brilliant chord strums. Which are on quite a clean, an electric guitar with quite a clean tone. And I mentioned that hard cut. I'll point it out to you now. It cuts here. There, do you hear that? Hard cut. Great editing. Yeah. Try and listen out for that in the master. I don't think you'll hear it. I think it's pretty well disguised, because I didn't even notice it when mixing, so. It already sounds lovely. It's just that it's a gorgeous piano part. It really is a gorgeous piano part. What I did next was give the track to Peter Sanchez, who is a top guy, bass player that I went to university with in my first year in London. And I said, Peter, man, I didn't speak in an American accent because that wouldn't make sense. I said, Peter, I need some bass. Could you put some bass in my face? And he did, and it sounded like this. Boom, boom, boom. So at this point, we've got bass, piano, acoustic guitars, left and right. Now, normally, by this point, you'd probably already have your drums recorded. You probably definitely look to record them pretty soon. But no, because I'm an idiot, and because I didn't know how to properly record a drum kit and produce a drum kit, I was still floundering around with what I was going to do in terms of percussion. I didn't know. So drums didn't come till way later. There you go. But we'll get to that. At this point, we passed it back to our man, Owen Swift, and I just said, Owen, mate, what do you got for us? And I was specifically looking at this middle eight section, which I don't know if middle eight is the correct term to use when referring to it, because the song is an AABA, in that you've got verse 1, verse 2, an alternative verse with a different chord structure or a different melody or just something different, so that it's clearly a defined A and B section. So 2 A's, 1 B, and then back to A, AABA. Pretty popular song structure in like folk and singer-songwritery stuff, which this is a folk singer-songwriter kind of folk rock song, so probably makes sense. This chord change here, which was inspired by a Kate Bush B-side called Under the Ivy. This section, I needed to kick this up a bit. Let me play it through how it sounds right now. Now, if you know me, you'll know that I love a descending chord progression. I have to get that in pretty much every tune. And there was one specific section. I'll just focus on the piano and guitars for this. I'll point out the descending chord progression. And I said to Owen, really hammer that home. I love that sort of thing. Hammer that home. I'll point it out to you. See what I mean? Dun, 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 descending. So I was like, let's hammer that home with some beefy electric guitars. And if there's one thing Owen Swift knows how to do, it's beefy electric guitars. Check this out. That's the drum. That's where the drama is. That's the key note. And I was just like, that's the keynote of that section. Let's really hammer that home, which he did fantastically well. Shout out Owen Swift. Towards the end of the tune as well, there's a pretty massive section where it's all been building up to this. The piano's going off. I'll put the bass in as well because that's going off as well. And that's really big. And we had the beefy, as I've labelled them here, beefy electric guitars in this middle 8 section. It's really a B section. We needed them at the end because it's massive and Owen delivers. Let's put them in. Rock and roll, man. But there were some gaps, right? There were some gaps. And I just kind of said to Owen, whenever there's an instrumental section, whenever there's a gap where vocals are absent, I feel like there needs to be more to focus on. So if you want to slap some lead in there, some lead guitar, we'll focus it on these sections. So we've got some lead here, which, as you can see, I'd actually labelled that. So this structure up here, you can see you can create markers. Down here, add a marker. So what I'll do is I'll play through it all on piano and then label the sections and then build from there, so we have the song mapped out. And I'd actually labeled in instrumental section and solo 8. So I will have said to Owen, I can't really remember doing this, but instrumental section there, you got 4 bars. Solo here, you got 8 bars. Shred, let's see what you got. This is what he got. And then the guitars come in. So the song's getting heavier at that point. But we also, as we know, had a solo section. This is a bit of a build-up section. You can really hear the musicianship, and Owen's a cracking musician. That woo 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 is a gorgeous melody, and again, much like the descending progression from the middle 8, it's that second note that does the emotional heavy lifting here. Wait for it. It's that one. Because it's almost augmented, you know. It needs to resolve. That second, so of the 3-note phrase, so you got map. Let's call them the safe zones, the resolution areas, and then that second note is just lingering in that space. You know, it's a bit tense. It's sad. It's a sad note, and it can only be that because of Owen's choice to play that note and where he plays it in the progression. That second in between 2 safe notes gives it sort of augmented feel. It's hanging in space. It's waiting to be dragged to a safe place, which is what gives that note, my favourite note in this little section, the uncertainty, and makes it the key to this 3-note phrase working, right? Because it's only 3 notes. Something's got to make it work. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? And then he just shreds. Shout out Owen Swift. Bloody love him. Something else that I want to point out with this section is it really is a build-up, right? But it would be weird to show you the build-up, which you can get from these kind of muted, kind of grungy. Well, it's a palm mute, isn't it? Chugging. That's the word I was looking for. They chug the tune towards the big bit, which is coming. So those guitars do a great job of building us up right, to the big section. But in order to have a build-up section, which is here, the solo 8, and in order to have a massive section, which is here, the massive verse, you also have to have the breakdown verse, right? So let me give you some context. In the middle 8, we've got that descending chord progression. It's quite a big section. The song's kicking along now. And we get, you know, a bar or so, 2 bars actually, 2 whole bars of just leaving it, which obviously makes more sense with the context of the vocal, with the lyrics. The last line of the middle 8 is, now he's gone and I'm asking. The first line of breakdown verse is a very emotionally delivered, babe, are you out this Saturday? So the gap between sections in my head from a story point of view is the confidence. He's gone and I'm asking, 2 bars of uncertainty. What is he asking? Is he bottling it? Oh, babe. Uncertainty, right? So this section, therefore, it's labeled breakdown verse, and in terms of storyline and lyrical progression, this had to be smaller. For me, a massive thing musically is that the music and the lyrics, the backing track, the instrumentation, even the production and the vocal delivery, it all has to match up, right? If the lyric is I feel so insecure, let's just say that's the line, I'm so insecure and I can't even talk to people, and you're singing it with these vocal runs and I'm so insecure with this massive orchestral section and it's all like pow 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 pow, I'm out, you know. I switch off at that point because, well, no, you're not so insecure, you're singing fucking 7 octaves and you've got a massive orchestra and fucking guitars and big drums. How can you be insecure? It makes no sense. So for me, this section has to break down. So we're stripping it back, just the piano and this little synth. And at this point, the Formant Flutter synth harmonizes with itself, which is just quite pretty. And then we start to build up. So in terms of context, small section, asking a question with little confidence. At the end of this section, he's asked his question and he's waiting for the answer. Do you know what I mean? You see how it all links up? And we're building up. And then it all comes out into the last massive verse, where the poetic voice, let's say, spills out, gives everything away, gives the game away. And this is where you just have to really commend the musicians you're working with, right? Because you can say on paper, okay, I need a big B section, which dies down into a tiny little verse, which then has a build-up with a guitar solo, and then a massive verse. And that's all I can say. I can just give them words. This is what I hear. And for them to go out and just do it and then smash it out the park Jan, for example, his piano playing to, let's solo that, just the piano, to go from the massive middle 8, right? Massive is big. It's not massive yet. The massive verse is over here. He's given it some, and then he's going to break it down for us. Just perfect. And then you got to shout out Owen Swift for doing the same thing. Because you say to him, right, okay, we've had this tiny section, now I need to build up. So he gives us some chugging palm mutes. I mean, perfect. And then I'm like, well, I need a big section solo. All right then. Jan's doing the same thing on the piano. The two musicians a pianist and a guitarist at the top of their game, separately, obviously. I don't think these two people ever met. Just riffing off each other. You know, oh, that guy's laid that down. Right, okay, well, I'll lay this down. It's fantastic the way it all fits together, and that's why you have to just commend the people that you work with, right? And I shouldn't take anything away from Peter as well, because he knows when to go big on the bass. Boom, 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 boom. Just the skill of the musicianship in these throughout the tune, really. It's quite an emotional moment. I remember when I first played the song badly again and gave like a note, because it's singer speak. It's a big thing when you work with actual musicians and you're a singer. I think you'll know that singer speak's a real thing. You go to the drummer and say, okay, right, I want it to sound like doof, 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 doof. And of course the drummer will understand that means, okay, well, he's got a bar there and he wants a fill here and he wants me to go onto the right, the ride there. He wants a big beefy kick, maybe a double kick, and he wants me to do this, that, because they know the technical jargon, which, as I've just displayed, I don't. All I can do is communicate a feeling, right? I want to feel like I'm alone at a piano in a bar. I want to feel like by the end of the song, everyone's singing along, everyone's got an instrument and they're just jamming away and bringing their own thing to it. I want to feel as if I've just asked a girl to go for a drink with me and she's now thinking about it and I'm waiting for the answer. Can you give me that feeling? And then they will go, oh, okay, well, that feeling means we need a chugging palm muted guitar to build up to the next section while we wait for the answer, So it's taking what is a theory, a space of mind, an emotion, and actually using your knowledge of music and technicalities to bring that through. Because at the end of the day, music is about emotion, but what's behind that emotion is actually quite mathematical in a way. But we don't want to think about that bit because it's not as fun. But I want to now draw your attention towards mob choir. I'm not thinking, what the hell's a mob choir? Well, for me, it was important that everybody is singing this along, right? It's a pub tune. It's got a very simple melodic refrain that is designed for everyone to join in and get involved with, right? And it was key that was a hook. It was key that it was a drunken hook almost. So what I did is I asked all of my songwriting class in year one in London, who by this point, because we'd play the songs to each other, we all kind of had a knowledge of each other's repertoire. This one was sort of the one that I brought to the table and people kind of ran with. So they knew the track, and I said, oh guys, well, that Pint A Day song, do you want to pop into a room and just record us singing along? Doesn't have to be in tune, doesn't have to be in time, just pretend you're drunk and be silly with it and have fun with it, because that's what I want people to do with the tune itself. And we went into a rehearsal room. I think there was about 10 of us, maybe 10, 12 of us, and recorded this. And then I said, well, can we do it again to make it sound bigger? Again. One more. Throw some harmonies in there. Can hear someone riffing in my right ear. That just makes me smile whenever I hear it, because it's just great to hear lots of people singing your song. It's kind of an emotional thing, right? So you throw that into the final section and you start to take shape. There you go. So that's the mob choir, the mob chorus. And now the last couple of things are the drums and the vocals. We'll do vocals last. I'll focus on the drums now at this point. So I came to Leeds and there was one of the modules in year 2 was you had to mix a track. This was a whole debacle because I picked this song. I thought, okay, let's go at the deep end. All this live instrumentation, all this going on. Let's see if you can hack it. I couldn't, but it was during lockdown. So all I had were these shitty Apple earphones to mix on. And I was really pissed off about that because I didn't get first. And I was very driven. I really wanted to get first. And I was really disappointed. I was like, fuck this. And I complained. I was like, I only had Apple earphones to mix on. How can you expect me to mix properly? But it probably would have sounded shit no matter what, because I wasn't experienced enough at the time. But because I had to, I decided to do this song, I knew I had to get drums on it. It just was begging for percussion at this point. So me and Dom got into a room and recorded, I think, Big Reevesy. So shout out Dom, shout out Reevesy. I think you were both there, and recorded some drums in Leeds Conservatoire, different city, different room. Here they are. It sounds like it's in a strange space, right? And that's because I've put chorus on them. I don't fully understand how it works. I can only go off how it makes it sound. With chorus, it just sounds like it's fuller. It sounds double tracked. It sounds like you've got two things at slightly different pitches, but not enough to sound off key, just enough to make it sound bigger. Putting this on a drum, I've never done before, but I just thought it sounded cool. And then Dom goes ham in the middle eight. Which, if you think about it, he's recording this. This is already in front of him. Starting to take shape, right? That's a cool fill. Let's give Dom a moment here, because I've praised the musicianship. Drums are an instrument, people. Fucking physical, fucking difficult. I could never. When I see a drummer playing and singing, I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I can barely keep time just singing. This is a fill. Basically now we've got the backing track, right? It would be a lie for me to say, well, all that's left for me to do is the vocals, because I actually recorded the vocals before the drums. So my rationale with these vocals, Boy Next Door, not too much in the way of plugins. There's still quite a few on there, but not too much in the way of no pitch correction. This is rare for me. I mean, usually what my vocal process would be, I'd record maybe 5 or 6 takes for each section, pick the best ones, and even then there'll be little bits or sometimes big bits where I've missed a note. This note is off key. I haven't hit that one. I've gone too far for that one. I've slid past that one. Do you know what I mean? So I would say every single one of the songs I've pretty much ever done will have at least some pitch correction on, because it's pretty much an industry standard at this point. You're expected to have your final vocal sounded pretty perfect. I am not a perfect vocalist, far from it, which is, I think, pretty normal. I'd be very surprised if there are many people who don't do that. I've seen a lot of memes in the music industry where the producer will secretly add pitch correction to a vocal so the artist doesn't know and thinks they've smashed it. But I think it's better to know that's the process that happens. Obviously, when you're recording the vocal, you've got to aim for perfection. You'll never get it, but you've got to aim to get hit the notes, right? But for me as a singer, the emotion that you convey is more important than the pitching anyway, because it's about stories, it's about what you're telling, it's about what you're feeling. You want to hear what the vocalist is feeling. But this tune was an absolute up to the max with that. It's being sung in a pub, right? It's been sung in a bar. It's about someone who's at a low point, who's got an addiction, who's struggling a bit with their life, right? It would be ridiculous if, again, linking back to vocalists I've mentioned before who will sing a line depressed, but they'll do a massive vocal run and sound completely supremely confident and hit every note. No, come on. You're down in the dumps. You're going to miss notes. So there isn't any pitch correction on this vocal, which means I miss a few notes, and I'll point them out to you.
Probably killing myself, probably losing my health, but I'll drink a pint a day. At least then I can dream of you.
But if that was perfect, would it feel right if every note was pitch corrected and bang on? Because it's subconscious, but you can hear perfection, right? And you can hear imperfection. And I think that this track is just about someone who is clearly so imperfect that if they were singing on the nose every note, it just wouldn't work, right?
Probably taking my life, probably flattening my eyes, but I'll drink a pint a day. At least it soothes the pain, excuses me to say that you look nice today.
So it's quite a dry sounding vocal. Obviously I've not put any pitch correct on it, but the space that it's in is quite small. It's a spring reverb, so quite vintage, quite 70s. Weirdly, to get a very natural sounding sound, you actually have to do still quite a bit with it. The middle eight's a bit more rock and roll, so I've double tracked it.
Crying on my own, 'cause I have been dethroned from the place where you know I should be.
Giving it a bit of the beans in that section. Bit of an L, I've just noticed. I went home crying on my own, and it's double tracked.
Crying on my own.
Wait, you've double tracked and the line is I'm crying on my own? L, that is a bit of an L. And then I mentioned that breakdown verse. I really went small with the delivery.
Hey, are you out this Saturday?
It's that babe. Babe.
Hey,
Babe.
are you out this day? If only just to say you look so bloody great. Perhaps come home with me.
And then finally, big massive final verse. Octave raise. Man, come on, it's the big section. It's the big bit at the end. Jump the octave.
Just a pint a day will do me, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you got to go an octave up at that point because it just sounds bigger. Everything's sounding bigger. So if I was just to literally go with
Pint a day,
all this going on,
pint a day.
you need this. There's also another bit. What'd you say, what'd you say, what'd you say now, baby?
What do you say, what do you say, what do you say now, baby?
Just thought I'd point it out. With me wailing on as well, the lead vocal following it.
Drink a pint a day. What do you say, what do you say, what do you say now, baby? It's only a pint a day.
And the guitar goes back to that 3-note section as well. Owen knows what he's doing. That's a very Prince thing to do, actually. To Purple Rain does that really well. The guitar goes big and massive and the song goes big and massive, but at the end he comes back down on the at the end. So just coming back to the hook, just so everyone kind of knows what's going on in the end, is quite a good idea. There. I'll drink a pint a day. Whoa, whoa. I'll drink a pint a day. Well, there you go, people. That is the mix of A Pint A Day. That's the instrumental breakdown. I hope you found that somewhat interesting. A Pint A Day, 12th of April, Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music. Get on it. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you're having a pint today or you're having a pint anytime soon, just have a little think, Remember that melody. I'll drink a pint a day. Cheers.